What's up, you guys? Welcome to Million Dollar Seller. I'm really excited for this episode. I'm so excited. I have a friend here who's a therapist. He works a lot with gay men in the community, and we're going to talk about perfectionism. And his name's Michael Pizulo. So I'm excited. So, you know what I'm about here. We talk a lot about entrepreneurship, we talk about sales, but it's all about living our best lives and healing and growing and personal development and also creation. So, we're going to have a really healthy, amazing conversation on perfectionism today and how it's getting in your fucking way, how it's getting in your way of moving forward and taking action and all the things. Welcome to Million Dollar Seller. I'm Samuel Gegen, your guide to mastering sales skills, building a wealthy mindset, and achieving financial freedom. With over a decade of sales expertise, I've generated $150 million in revenue and helped hundreds of other sellers become financially free and make six figures. I paid off 100 grand in debt and massively grew my net worth with my sales commissions, then left the corporate world in 2023 to coach others. In 2024, I scaled my coaching business by 400% and purchased a business in cash, growing it by over 40%. Sales skills are life skills. Hit that follow button, baby, and share this podcast with someone that needs it. Welcome to Million Dollar Seller. Now, let's sell more and become more. So, welcome, Michael. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing so good. So what you guys don't know is this is the third attempt to record this. And when you're in entrepreneurship, there's something that always goes wrong. It's
Yeah.
just inevitable and you just have to deal with it. So we decided to just use the OG platform of a Zoom call right now, and here we are. So thank you for your patience, Michael. I'm excited for this conversation. Why don't you start with just telling us a little bit about your background, your journey, how you got into, therapy, and then also specifically, how did you, get into working more with gay men?
hmm Yeah. So I am a therapist. I'm located in West Hollywood, which, if you're not familiar, is like the kind of gay neighborhood of LA. My whole clinical career has been in LA, working in different parts of town and so on and so forth. I started off working in a lot of like addiction treatment, particularly in like residential facilities and outpatient facilities. And then when I opened my own practice about 6 years ago, um, I when you open a business, you kind of just sort of see who comes to you and see what lands. And my population became more and more really focused on gay men. And so I've really honed in on working with them specifically and the issues that they deal with frequently.
Amazing. What have been some of the most common things that you work through in terms of issues? Like obviously you probably I so when we are in the business, we both are obviously in some type of coaching, consulting type work, right? So I know when I talk to a customer, I know exactly what they're going through. Like I feel like I can just like feel it, like because you work with the same type of populations, right? So what is some of the things that you often see, as a therapist that people really battle with?
Yeah. So I would say with gay men in particular, I mean, there's a lot of stuff about relationships. And not to say that we struggle with relationships more than other people, but obviously our experience of finding them and forming them has been a little bit different. And there's like unique challenges that go along with it. And then I think a lot of stuff around self-worth and self-confidence are really common.
When you dive into those, what would be your, if someone's really struggling with that, so someone listening to this now, what would be your tip of advice? One thing that really stands out to me the most is that self-worth, because I deal with that a lot in, my entrepreneurs I work with, right? Really valuing what we're worth, valuing what we can bring to the table. What would be your tip of advice for someone kind of really going through that?
Well, I think, as a therapist, like what you want to do is really peel back the layers and get to understand how does this person form their self-concept? How do they think of themselves in general? What ingredients went into that? And then figuring out kind of like where the root of any kind of internalized shame or guilt or whatever it is that's interfering. But you want to get to know them and figure out like what the injury is.
Sounds about right. Asking the right questions always helps. I want to kind of lean into this thought of perfectionism right now with you and have this good conversation. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this because I see a lot of this when I work with people or just even interact with people. They want things to be perfect or the right time or the right setup or the right partner or the right place, to take action and do stuff. But I think when you think of perfectionism, how do you define, first of all, how do you define it? And how does it show up in the clients that you typically work with?
Yeah, no, I think perfectionism is a trap. And it's a disaster. And I think what it really is, it's like it's an intolerance for any type of visible flaw. And I think the problem with it is that I think it's a myth because it doesn't exist, and it always leaves people feeling as though they're falling short. And also, too, I think it prevents people from even going after things because they feel like if I don't have a good chance of,
Hmm.
you know, batting 1,000, if that's the right metaphor, then I'm not even going to try.
Oh my gosh, a gay man using a sports analogy. My God, I've
You
been there
can
before too, bro.
you can tell I don't watch baseball because I'm like, is batting 1,000 the right number?
Baseball's with the bat, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So there's something you said there that really resonates with me and a lot of people I work with, as well as is not taking action because they want the perfect time, the perfect plan, the
Mhm.
perfect setup.
Mhm.
And it's like this whole freeze or fawn mode. Like they like freeze up, right? If someone's really battling or going through that freeze mode, like not taking action because they're in the dire need to have it be right or perfect, or they're planning, right? A lot of people are like in the like they're in your space and my space are a little different because yours is probably like overthinking and waiting for the right time, the right place, the right guy, the right whatever they're waiting for. And mine is like the plan. Like they get into this, I need to plan. It's like over planning and
Mhm.
waiting for the perfect plan to take action. How would you navigate someone through that?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, well, when it comes to perfectionism too, you want to kind of see how tied to this paradigm is that person. Some people are kind of like loosely, I'm a perfectionist, sort of, and some people
Mhm.
it's really, really strict. So
Yeah.
if someone's not that committed to perfectionism, I think it's easier to sort of like kind of encourage them away from it. But if someone is so identified with being a perfectionist, it's going to take time to see if they even want to, loosen up their grip on that way of thinking, and
Yeah.
then B, help them do that. I would imagine that people that are doing more like business strategy and coaching are probably further along in the journey of making practical steps towards some sort of tangible goal. But I think it really starts with like how much does this person identify with being a quote unquote perfectionist?
Would you say too, when you say that, that makes a lot of sense. Would you say there's like obviously different scales of perfectionism? And when you think of someone that's really a perfectionist, really they tend to be maybe more, maybe I'm saying this right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, more of like that high achiever. They're just really devoted and dedicated and a high achiever. They hold themselves to a higher standard, which makes it harder for them to take action because they're trying to be too perfect. Would you say that's accurate or
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it can look different on different people, but some people they're very rigid about just they have to appear whatever they consider to be kind of like flawless. And the problem with that too also is that it's so subjective. So, but some people really identify with being that way in the world, and so it becomes very rigid for them. But I
Mhm.
think the more average person um probably gets into the mindset of I don't want to try something unless I'm likely to succeed. And I think that's
Mm.
also a setup for like inertia.
Oh, I get it. I never thought of it like that. So they don't want to try it because they don't want to fail.
Yeah.
Fear of failure.
Yeah.
That actually leads into my next question for you. So this is for, from a therapist's POV right now is would you say perfectionism is more about control or is it more about fear? Or do you often see a mix of both?
I think it's both, but yeah, I think it's definitely there's a lot of control of I have to be perceived a certain way. I can't be messy. I can't, you know, fall down. I can't fail. I can't look stupid. And I'm sure you see this that people who are very, very successful are very comfortable with all of those things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They don't care at all if they
Yeah.
fail or if
Yeah.
everyone sees it. They're like, whatever, I'll do something else.
You you
They just
you
keep
honest
going.
you honestly have to just embrace it and
Hmm.
let it happen. Man, I think about my path to how I got here. And it's like I've posted a lot of content. I posted a lot of shitty content. I posted
Mhm.
some great content. I've launched this business, didn't work so well. I launched this business, worked great. Like I've looked
Yeah.
really stupid doing this. Like you just it's
Mhm.
part of it. You have to really detach. I work with a lot of people on like the law of detachment, like really detaching from the outcome and just, going full force and being yourself. I think one thing I want to ask about too is since you and I both work a lot with, the LGBTQ plus community, obviously mine's more in the entrepreneurship, creation, work, but perfectionism shows up in my work
Mhm.
and in your work. So with that particular audience or even minorities, because I work with a lot of people of color or women, just basically anyone that's not a straight white male. I feel like, and I don't even like to say that, I feel like, but my interpretation is some of them feel the need to like prove their worth. Um, and I see that a lot as well. I know one of the books that I've read a few times, the what's it called, the Velvet Rage, and
Mhm. Mhm.
proving ourselves, proving our worth in society. How is that showing up with your clients, and how do you like? What's your take on that?
Yeah, yeah. So I think, with perfectionism, like the underbelly of it is always going to be some sort of shame. Like I'm trying to compensate for something. And I think, one of the ideas presented in the Velvet Rage, which was so spot on, is that gay men internalize a lot of shame growing up. And so there's this trend of leaning more in towards perfectionism as adults to compensate. And I think what we've seen too is that's changed a lot over the generations. Like Velvet Rage very much, it was written kind of about like, kind of affluent men in gay men in San Francisco, I think, who were probably in like their 40s or 50s, 10 years ago. So it really captured a moment. If you talk to a gay guy who's 20 years old these days, they don't care at all. They don't, it's such a different experience. You're not going to see them so focused on I have to be perfect about everything.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that concept is definitely correct, and it is something that is present in a lot of um, gay men in particular. I think it is very unique to that group. But it really does vary on by the individual and really by generation.
Yeah. I actually was talking to a friend about that probably a month ago, and we talked about the Velvet Rage, and he thinks it's outdated. And I never thought of it like that. I thought of it more of like I want to read this at a different stage as I go through these stages myself, like every few years, kind of, revamp on it because, I'm 38, so I feel like a lot of it's applicable to me. But I don't know. I think we've progressed a lot. How do you think it's different now than it's been in the past?
Yeah, no, so I think I mean the book is quote unquote outdated because yeah, it was written in like 2007. So obviously, I mean
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
things
yeah,
things change, So but I think it was definitely captured a concept very accurately and very astutely, and a concept that still is very true for a lot of people. But, the experience of gay people in gay men in America is dramatically different over the past few decades. I mean, it's truly
totally.
gone at light speed. So the idea that there's going to be any one paradigm that captures everyone is just not
Yeah,
realistic. But I
yeah,
think what the author was onto was totally spot on and still very applicable.
yeah. Um, yeah, I agree. I resonate with a lot of that. I wanted to ask you this too on perfectionism, then maybe we can switch gears a little bit. But when we think of perfectionism, we think of being perfect or things being right. Do you ever think it's ever about trying to feel safe?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's based off of this idea that I am only going to be safe if I'm, appealing to everyone, or if I, all my flaws are hidden, or all of my messiness is, covered up, or so yeah, absolutely. I think, and that does give a sense of safety for them. But then, of course, like what it really does is it creates a lot of distance.
Totally agree. Thank you for sharing all of your insights on perfectionism. I want to kind of just have a nice little dialogue question because I've been to therapy.
Hmm.
I think everyone needs it. And I think, especially now, I think we all need to talk through our things and whether you need it or not. Like you can, I think a common misconception, I would love your insight on this, is that people go when they feel like something bad's happening or something they need a therapist, right? But what about when you don't need someone? Like you don't like nothing bad's happening. Isn't therapy still a great resource for maintenance or, any of that? What's your take on that?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, I think usually people go to therapy when they're struggling with something. There's something going on or a new incident or so, that, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people use therapy as a kind of like, like with the gym, right? Like you go as it just to sustain your physical health, and people go to therapy to sustain their mental health. I think that's become more and more common. Also, people who have gone in the past and liked it, it just sort of becomes part of their routine. So
Yeah.
there's different ways to use it. Absolutely. Yeah.
If someone is listening to this and they've never been to therapy or they're thinking about going to therapy, what would you tell them? What would you say to them to like encourage them to make the right decision for themselves?
Yeah, yeah. So I think that my biggest advice to everyone going to therapy is make sure that you find the right therapist for you, because we are so different and we have
Mhm.
different styles and personalities, and there's going to be many therapists you go to that you kind of don't really vibe with, or it's okay or whatever, and then there's going to be the person where you're like, wow, they just get me. They
Yeah.
are just exactly speaking my language, and that's what you want to look for. So I always encourage people to reach out to people and find the right fit for you, because
Yeah.
it's not like, if you take Tylenol, like, pretty much no matter where it's going to be the same drug no matter what, whoever hands it to you. But
Yeah.
therapy is going to be so individual. So finding the right fit, I think, is the
Yeah.
most important thing.
That's so important. Speaking from experience as well, that's really good advice. It's like dating. You want to find
Hmm.
the right match for you and
Hmm.
also the right therapist that meets the needs that you need. So I've been
Hmm.
to a few therapists and, I'm next month I have 9 years sober. And so, at one point I needed help more with addiction and recovery, right?
Hmm.
And then I got really good. I got, feel like I figured that out. And then I had this traumatizing breakup. It's
Hmm.
traumatized me and traumatized me. So I needed someone a little bit more with like attachment styles and dating and relationships that specialized in gay and, LGBTQ dating. So I think that's a huge thing is because also too, man, if you get the wrong one, it could ruin your experience and it shouldn't be a bad experience. I think you should enjoy it, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have tried it out, and it wasn't a good fit, and it kind of turned them off from the whole thing. And, if that's like going to one restaurant and saying, "Oh, I hate food,"
Yeah,
like
that's a
it's
good
so
one.
different. So you
Yeah.
really have to, and it's kind of, it can be, feel like kind of a chore to have to like sample around. And honestly, a lot of people, the first person they reach out to, it is the right fit, and then great. But, give it a little bit of time to find the right fit for you. And also to your point too, that yeah, over the course of years, 9 years, I mean, obviously different issues are going to pop up, and maybe you
Yeah.
do need to have a different type of clinician for each of those things, and that's also totally fine.
So someone finds their therapist, they find someone they think's a good fit. What's standard protocol? I know it's different per person, but like where would someone,
Yeah.
because one thing I'm understanding, the more and more people that I work with is there's this concept of like overwhelm, right? People get overwhelmed, overstimulated, especially now more than ever with all the fucking shit, the cell phones and
Hmm.
the apps and the
Hmm.
life. Life is just crazy. It's very different now than it's ever been. Where would you start? What is like to kind of map it out for someone that's like a beginner or just like wanting to get a little dive in
Yeah.
a little bit,
No, it's an overwhelming process, and there's not a great matchmaker situation. So, first thing, there's kind of two ways you can go about finding a therapist. One is, doing research online, or two is asking recommendations from friends. So if you have friends that you are
Yeah.
going to therapy, you could ask them, "Do you like your therapist? Can I get their number?" Like that could be a great way, because someone's kind of vetted them and you get a sense of them already. But I would start by, narrowing down the criteria. So obviously you want to think of like pricing first,
Mm-hmm.
location, and then you can kind of get into specialty. And these are things you can do online, and that will kind of narrow down the bucket of people. And then
Okay.
what you're going to come across are like their social media and their website. And so you can kind of read through and get a little gist of it. But ultimately, what you're going to want to do, most therapists these days will do like a free consult call, like for 15
Yeah, yeah,
minutes or
yeah.
so, just to touch base. So get yourself narrow it down to, I don't know, 3 or 4 people, and set up some calls, talk to all of
Yeah.
them, see who you like. You can even book a couple sessions and then go from there. I think that's
Yeah.
usually a pretty effective way to do it.
Yeah. Literally just like dating, find a few prospects that you might be interested in,
Hmm.
set
Hmm.
up a few consult dates with them and see which one you vibe with and go from there. But I believe that doing it is better than not, right? And I think everyone needs to process their stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna flip gears for a second because I'm all over the place, but also I know what my audience likes to hear. So, um, I do a lot with sales. I do a lot with entrepreneurships, and it's a lot of creators. It's a lot of people that do what you and I do, right? We want to build a business. We want to work on our own terms. We want freedom. But I know a lot of what they struggle with. So I want a therapist's POV on all these things. And
Okay.
perfectionism is just like one of them. But when I work with people a lot, they get a lot of like overwhelm. They get a lot of analysis paralysis. They get a lot of lack of self worth. And it's almost like they look for someone to give them permission that they can do this. I hear that a lot. It's been popping up a lot for me. Like, yes, you can, leave your job and start a business. Yes, your business can, like, it's like they're looking for someone to validate them. So I want to start with these kind of one at a time. I want to start with overwhelm. If someone comes to you and they're like, Michael, I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed with life and all these things. What would be maybe a good tangible something they can do to put into play, put into practice to help them deal with that?
Yeah, well, first I'd want to know like what do they mean by overwhelm? What does that mean to them?
So yeah, so let me do a little role play here. So if it's an entrepreneur who's listening to this podcast, overwhelm would probably be a lot of the things they feel like they need to do in their business. Overwhelmed with, because you're running the books, you're making the product, you're selling the product, you're doing the operations. They're overwhelmed, and then some of them have kids, some of them don't. But it just depends on who they are. So just like I would say overwhelmed with business and life, like what would be some of the tips you could provide to them?
Hmm. Well, yeah, so it would depend on the person, but
Of
if it's
course.
someone who is, you know, generally organized and hardworking, but they're just truly overwhelmed with stuff to do, then I would help them think about like, how do they find calm in the storm? What do they do that, helps them ground themselves in the midst of the chaos? If it's someone who is, is poorly organized and has a lot of tasks, then it would be more about um, how are they supporting their organization efforts? Like, what are they doing to as help themselves
Hmm.
be more on top of
Hmm.
things? So it would depend on the person and then
Yeah,
why they're overwhelmed.
that's really good advice. Thank you for sharing because when I think of people too, it's like when I work with individuals, I and they're overwhelmed, it's the first thing to go, the things that keep them less stressed.
Yeah.
They skip the workouts, they don't do
Hmm.
the walks, they don't meditate, they don't do the therapy because they're so busy and they're so overwhelmed. And I'm like,
Hmm.
that's when you need it the most,
Hmm.
right? That's when you need therapy. That's when you need the meditation and the stuff that makes you feel good, that keeps you whole, as you said. So I really love that and I really resonate with that a lot. When someone is very what were the other topics I had? The man,
You
I'm
said
drawing a
self-worth.
blank. Self-worth. Thank you. I'm like drawing a blank right now. Self-worth. So I had a call with my group community a couple months ago, and we talked a lot about self-worth because in this industry too, it's tied to a lot of things. It's tied to being able to sell their product, their service. Also charge, right? People don't
Hmm.
charge enough or they charge less because they think they're not worth more. So when someone has a lack of self-worth, especially with those examples that I provided, what would you suggest as maybe like a tip or an exercise they can do to increase that self-worth, baby, like make it go up a little bit? Like how would you coach them through that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like for all of these things, it's a great question. I feel like for all these things, I wanted to know who they are and
Yeah,
figure
yeah,
out what
yeah.
why is their self-worth low in the first place. However, I do think though when it comes to building a business, putting yourself out there, that self having low self-worth is a humongous barrier. There are so many people who are so talented and so smart, and they could do so much more. They just don't put themselves out there. And I
Yeah.
think what we often probably see is that the people who often are, not to sound bitchy, but the people who are succeeding and are really going for it are often kind of mediocre, but they have self-confidence. They go
Or
for
they
it.
have, or they don't have awareness.
Right, but I think I feel like a lot of them honestly know they're not amazing, but they're
Yeah.
like, I want to give it a try, and they do
I,
it, and then they
I,
get somewhere.
that really hits home to me because I'll say I've struggled with that myself during this journey and until I've actually started to see other people do it. And I'm like, I'm because I'm really I'm really good at what I do,
Hmm.
and as you are, right? But it took me some time to really own that, right? Because I've seen other people. Because I also get in my head, or I have the perfectionism where it's like, oh, this isn't good. I'm gonna do it, right? No, I'm not gonna do it, or I'm gonna wait, right? So I think it's all tied together. I think, um, man, that hits home for me. There was another point you made that I really liked, about man, I can't think. We're having such a good conversation. I just like drew a blank. But when it comes to self-worth and people putting themselves out there, this is what it was visibility. So people are scared to maybe post or be visible, but being seen is like people can't buy from you, can't work with you if they don't know you're around. And I think that's a
Hmm.
huge, I don't think I know, that's a huge block a lot of my customers go through is or clients. They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be visible as much, or they're scared to be visible. What's your take on
Hmm.
that? Like, and one other thing I'll say is I know I'm asking these concrete examples and I want you to coach through it. But I resonate with a lot that you say that everyone's different. So
Hmm.
like when I work with someone, it's different. Just like when you work with someone, it's different. I like to personalize it based on the human. So if Michael's resonating with you, book a call with him and he can he can work with you on an individual solution. But it's a good point too. But in that situation, what would you say to someone that's struggling with the visibility piece?
Yeah. So my take on it is this: is that yeah, if you're gonna hide, then no one's gonna see you, and then it's not gonna go very far. So yes, I think putting yourself out there is just part of the process. What I would say though is that I don't know. Personally, I don't expect people to be so nice to me. Like if you're gonna put like on the internet, for example, if you're gonna put things up, you're gonna get meme comments. I mean, you're gonna get nice stuff, but you're gonna get people who just pick it apart or whatever. And like
Totally.
that's just part of it. And I think, not taking that personally and also just knowing that, if you're gonna step into the arena, like yeah, you're gonna get some positive and some shit thrown at you. And just to kind of know that ahead of time so you're not surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it'll be that bad, but like if you get negative review on a product or if it's a business or something or whatever it is, like just to sort of know that's part of the
It's
process and it's
part of the
okay.
gig.
Yeah.
And you bring up the arena, one of my favorites, the man in the arena. And one thing people need to consider is if people aren't in the arena with you fighting the fight, who really gives a shit what they're saying?
Hmm.
I've had to learn that through my Instagram and social media gains. It's like, man, I'm talking to a specific person that I want to help and I want to serve. The rest can
Hmm.
eat it.
Hmm.
Like I'm not trying to find, and also if it's not your vibe, that's my vibe, So it's like it's my vibe. I've also by putting the authenticity self out there. I'll say this for anyone that's struggling with this now is by being more authentic, and I'll use my Instagram, my stuff as an example. I've gotten the best clients. I've gotten the best friendships. I've gotten the best relationships. The rest can eat shit. Like I don't care. Like I've gotten really good connections because we're on the same vibe.
Hmm.
What I say, they're like, I feel that, And some people be like, I don't feel that, or they unfollow me. That's fine too, because it's like you want to reject and repel what's not for you. Why not? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree.
So good conversation. The last thing I want to talk about real quick, and then we'll wrap this up. I like to keep them podcasts semi-short, but not like 2 hours long,
Hmm.
relationships. So obviously you probably deal with a lot of people and working through relationships. And, think that's a commonality that, what I do and what you do, there's a lot of commonalities, but relationships is one of them because, partnerships, relationships, client relationships, dating relationships, all of those affect us. Let's talk about relationships. I don't know where to start with this. But how do you work with someone that maybe, well, actually, I do know where to start with this. So people have a hard time letting go. They have a hard time of people pleasing. They have a hard time of really getting in the familiar, or like, let's say they have that friend in their life that they've had for 20 years and but they're not going anywhere and they're holding them back. So relationships that hold you back, what would be your advice to someone that is in a toxic relationship, whether it's a business partnership, a client relationship, a dating relationship? How do you navigate someone through that? Because listen, I have a lot of healthy relationships, but I've had a few unhealthy ones too, and I get it. I get it's hard. It's a dopamine rush. Can be addictive too, right? So how do you navigate people through, toxic relationships?
So I will say, if someone comes to you after it's over, it's a lot easier. If they're
Yeah.
still in it and they don't see that it's toxic, there's that like that quote that I can't remember about like pulling someone out of a fairy tale is very difficult. If someone thinks that they're with Prince Charming and you say no, you're not, they usually don't like hearing that.
Yeah.
So, but what I've found generally speaking is that there's going to be a pattern. So if someone is finds themselves in some sort of toxic dynamic, usually they've been in it before and maybe even a few other times. And so that's kind of the way that you can get some buy-in with them to see like, hey, do you notice that this has happened before and point it out to them? Because if you just
Hmm.
point to this current circumstance, they might not see it or think it's a one-off. But when they see a pattern in their life, then they get more curious about figuring it out.
Like, are you a repeat offender? Like,
Yeah,
is this
yeah,
happening over and over again? It's like a
yep,
cycle.
yep. Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
makes a lot of sense. It's funny when you said that because I got into therapy after I broke up with my ex, a
Mm-hmm.
while ago, not during. And I resonate with that because during I didn't feel like I needed, or during I was in the fairy tale, but afterwards I'm like, I need to pick up these pieces and figure this shit out, figure out
Mm-hmm.
myself. It was like you figure out the self-abandonment stuff and the attachment styles, like that's what I wanted to
Yes.
do discovery on. But I really resonate with that is people often sometimes when they're in it, they don't see it. And you
Mm-hmm.
can't really talk them into seeing it because they're resistant to it, right?
It's tough. It's tough.
So, man, I think if you're listening to this and these relationship conversations make you squirm a little bit, or they make you feel a certain way, I always encourage people to kind of look inward, take inventory. And I always ask people to like where you want to go, what you want to build, whether it's your life, your career, your business, your relationships. Are these people really getting you where you want to go? And how do they make you feel? Because I, at this point, don't have time for toxic relationships. I don't have time. Like, I don't want complicated relationships. They need to be semi simple. Like, I feel like it should fit. You shouldn't be, when people say relationships are work, like, I feel like they're not work. They shouldn't be work. They should be, of course, they should be commitment. They should be negotiation. Like, it's a little compromise. It's that type of work, but it shouldn't be work to make it work. Like, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
it should just kind of fit a little bit cleaner. Does that make sense?
Oh, I agree. Yes, I agree too.
Yeah, it shouldn't be someone where you're like, trying to make, a square, what do they say? A square peg fit into a round hole. Like,
Yep.
that's
Mm-hmm.
just not it. Well, thank you for being on this podcast. I want to ask final question. So, any final thoughts for someone really? So, let's just say someone's really struggling because I'm tapping into my, when I come up on my sober anniversary, I get a little sentimental. And when I was like thinking about how much I was struggling, it doesn't have to be about addiction or anything, but if someone's really kind of struggling with something, I know that's very broad, but what would be your tip, your motivational quote, something that you could just give them words of advice to get through it?
I mean, I think if you're struggling with something, just take the first step towards finding help
Yeah.
and then let it go, just go from there. Just take one step,
Yeah.
whether it's calling a friend or calling and just, and then that will lead to something else and something else. I
Yeah.
think eventually you'll land where you need to land and figure it out, but just do the first step, I think is the way to start.
That's amazing advice. And I totally agree. I think we live now too. Especially you probably see it more with men, maybe not asking for help.
Oh, yeah, it's so hard.
Yeah, yeah.
So
People
hard.
have a hard time asking for help. And I'll be raw, I'll be vulnerable with you guys. You see all my stuff on social media. I've needed help a lot. Like, and I've learned to ask for it. I've quit drinking, I needed some help. Business, I needed some help.
Hmm.
Relationships, I need some help. I need help. We all need help. And there's so much power in connection. There's so much power in community. So Michael really hits it right there. Is just take the first step and ask someone. It could be a friend. I mean, when I had panic attacks, never had them in my life. I had them at the beginning of the year. My community of friends got me through it. I didn't
Hmm.
realize how many people have had panic attacks until I
Hmm.
went through them and started asking questions. They're like, "Oh, I've had those. Here's what you do." Like
Yep.
it got me through it. I
Hmm.
thought I was dying. Like, fuck, I've never had them in my life. So
Hmm.
there's so much power in reaching out to the right person and asking. That's the point, the right person too. Someone that makes you feel good, someone that is gonna help you through it. And man, there's just reach out for some help.
Yes. No, I agree. I agree. And I think men, we have such a harder time doing that
Yeah.
than women. So it's so good that we give each other permission.
Yeah.
And I think we often find people will say, "Yeah, me too. I also had
Yeah.
anxiety this year," or whatever it is.
It really strengthens your relationships with people. Like
Hmm.
it's with me and a few of my girlfriends, it actually made us very close, very close. Because they went through it, they were helping me through it, and then it strengthened our connection, it strengthened our bond. So, um, Michael, thank you for being on Million Dollar Seller. I
Thank
appreciate
you for
you.
having me.
If someone wants to reach out to you and they want to work with you and they want some therapy, which you guys therapy sexy, go get it. How do they find you?
So they can find me at my website, which is just my name, michaelpizulo.com. And I also have a YouTube channel, which is Therapy for Gay Men. Those are the best places to find me.
The best places to find them, and we'll link them in the description. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. Lots of great stuff to come. So make sure you hit the follow button. And if you love it, leave a review. And I will see you next time on Million Dollar Seller. And you guys, I just want to just mention that whatever you think about, you can create. So keep creating and let's build together, baby.